Hey, what's up everybody? Pat Petrini here. Thanks for watching. This is, I think, part 3 of Reinventing Network Marketing. And what we're going to talk about this time is the Marketer-Centric model and the BoomBust Cycle. And in my opinion, many, I'm not sure if it's most, but it's certainly a lot of them. A lot of network marketing companies today they completely build their model entirely backwards. When they're in the drawing board from day one, all of their questions are around the acquisition and retention of marketers instead of customers, and they actually design their products and their whole model to compete within the network marketing space. They look at what's competitive in the network marketing space. How can we attract other marketers? And again, that's kind of facilitates what I talked about earlier. Is it creates this whole network marketing industry that we have, where it's this closed circuit where we're all trying to compete with each other instead of expand out into the marketplace and access the entire world of customers that are out there. And instead we build a model that we think is going to be appealing to the 1% of people that actually like network marketing. And we really close ourselves off, and then we get stuck in where we are today, where we have the network marketing industry, and you're trying to create a company that competes in the network marketing industry, which I think is a totally backwards idea to create a company. So what do I mean by this? I mean, founders and executives, they get in the boardroom and they start looking at their products and they start pricing their products to compete against other products that may be in the network marketing space. Let's say it's nutritionals as an example, or solar power, solar energy, or whatever it might be. Instead of looking at how could we compete with other maybe high-end nutritional products out there that are not being sold in the network marketing space. Or they look at it this way: they design their compensation plan. They look at other compensation plans that are in the network marketing space, and they are saying, okay, well, we need to make our compensation plan competitive with these other companies that are out there. So these other companies are paying out 40%, 50% or whatever. So we need to make sure that we can pay out that much or more. So we need to price our product so that we have enough money to go into the compensation plan, so that we can have a competitive compensation plan, so that we can attract these other leaders from these other companies. But guess what? By thinking that way, you've now priced your product out of the real marketplace. Your product is no longer appealing to the average customer that would have bought it solely for the product or service that you're offering. And now your only option is to try to attract other network marketers. And here we are back in this cycle of just being, competing against the network marketing industry instead of actually getting real customers. So what's the big problem with that? Why is that such a big problem? Well, it's because it creates a marketer-centric model where if you can't legitimately attract real actual customers, and by the way, let me just call some people out that are watching this right now, because right now in your head you just said, no, my company, we can definitely attract real legitimate customers. Okay, perfect. Then go ahead and look at your downline, do a downline report, and tell me what percentage of your check every month is coming from real, actual, legitimate customers versus is people that are marketers in your team, whether they've been successful or not, but they signed up because they had some interest in building a business and they're ordering product every month. Don't count those. A lot of times people call customers marketers that came in and didn't have any success. Oh yeah, they're a customer. No, they're somebody that joined with a dream of having success, but they didn't succeed, and so now you count them as a customer because they're still ordering product. That's not what I consider to be a customer. That's a failed marketer. What I'm talking about, real legitimate customers that had no interest in joining your business. Count up those people in your downline and look at what percentage of your check is coming from those people. If you're a founder or you're an executive, what percentage of your company revenue is coming from those people? And if it's less than 50%, certainly if it's less than 20 or 30%, then you are not, in my opinion, doing a very good job at attracting real customers, and you haven't built a model that is apparently effectively competing in the real marketplace. A lot of people think that the level should be 50-50. I think that that's the terrible number too. I think we ought to be striving for something in the 80 or 90% of customer revenue, and more of a 10 and 20% revenue coming from marketers. Again, look at stable companies around the world. The biggest stable companies around the world, look at how big their sales force is relative to the size of their customer base. That's just my opinion. So anyway, what's the problem? Let's say you are one of these companies, which is most of the companies out there, that where most of their revenue is coming from marketers and not customers, not real legitimate customers. Well, then that's what I would consider to be a pretty marketer-centric model. So what's the problem with that? Why is that such a big deal? Well, the problem with it is because it leads to what I refer to as the boom-bust cycle. And I don't think I didn't come up with that term. I've heard other people discuss that as well. It's the cycle that we've seen happen over and over and over and over again in the network marketing space, where you see a company that goes on a good run, and maybe they get to 100 million a year, maybe they get to several hundred million a year, maybe they even go beyond that. And but then oftentimes they have this great big momentum run, and then they just crash. They just crash into nothingness. And I don't want to name company names, but I mean, there's been anybody who's been around network marketing, we've seen it happen just so many times, right? Companies just going out of business, and they used to be doing 600 million a year, 700 million a year, and now they're just gone. They just got bought out for a fraction of what they were ever worth, tiny fraction, because the whole thing just collapsed. So why does that happen? Well, what happens is that when you're running up, it's the same thing that we've discussed as the whole pyramid scheme effect. It's the same thing, just on a slightly more muddied scale. It's not as clearly a pyramid scheme, but it's still the same idea. When you've got a great story, and you've got all these people that are getting in because of the opportunity, they don't want to miss out on what sounds to be like a great opportunity, and it sounds like to be a great product, and it might be a great product. Maybe it's just a little overpriced. Because again, you're pricing it to attract marketers. You're pricing it to be able to beef up the comp plan to attract other network marketers. So it might just be overpriced. It might be a legitimately great product, but if it's overpriced, you're still going to have the same problem that I'm about to describe. What happens is you start hitting momentum. The story's great. You're recruiting like crazy. People are making tons of money, great stories, all this kind of stuff. But at some point, and it's guaranteed, it's always going to happen at some point that curve is going to start to just level off a little bit. And then when it starts to level off, that brand new person that joined right here, they're going to have just a slightly harder time recruiting the new person, because the story just got just a tiny little bit worse, right? That it didn't quite move as fast for that new person as it did for the person that came in last week. And so that new person's story just isn't going to quite be as good. So then it levels off, a little bit more. And now this person, their story just isn't quite as good. So they're not as effective at bringing on other new marketers. The story is losing momentum a little bit. And then at some point it actually starts going the other way, and you've got people that are joining, but they're actually really struggling to bring on new marketers. And again, it's a marketer-centric model, so they're not even probably trying that hard to bring on customers, or they're not being very effective at bringing on real customers that don't care about the marketing side of it. So then these new people that are joining are not having success at bringing new volume in, and there's going to always be some attrition. So that attrition that's always been happening continues going. It's just that before you had more onboarding happening than attrition, but that attrition keeps on going, and now the onboarding is slowing down. So now you start going down a little bit. And now the story is getting worse and worse. The people that are at the bottom that are really having really struggling, again, sorry for the helicopter noise, I really hope this video comes out okay. The people at the bottom that are really struggling to bring on new people to create volume and make a check, they just say, you know what, I don't have the, they're not that serious or whatever, they move on to greener pastures, whatever, they quit. And now the people that were above them that were just making a little bit of money, but now their people underneath them quit. Well, they're like, okay, I'm out too. And then the whole thing, just like a pyramid scheme, the whole thing basically folds up from the bottom up. And then you have this massive company that was doing $500 million a year that's now doing less than $50 million a year, because the whole thing folded up. Now, what's fascinating when that happens is the people that are left are your real customers. What you're left with are the people that, who doesn't care about that, about the boom-bust cycle, is customers. They don't care at all if your company had a good quarter or a bad quarter. They don't care if your stock is up or down. They don't care about that stuff. Customers that are buying your product because they legitimately believe in the value of your product or service, and it's priced right, they're just going to keep on buying your product or service. So when you have that, you go through this the boom-bust cycle. When you get down to the other side on the bust cycle, if you're still in business, the people that you have left are a large portion of them are your real, actual, legitimate customers. They're people that are not making any money because they would have quit a long time ago, most likely, if they cared about that, because they've all gone through the bust. Everybody that was making money is making 20% or 10% of what they used to be making. But they really legitimately love your product enough to justify the price, and so they are still there, and that is your true customer base. So for some companies, they go through this boom-bust cycle and they end up being 10% of what they once were. That's because they only had 10% of their volume was real, actual, legitimate customers that thought their product was worth it. 90% were people that were really in it for the money, whether or not they knew that or not, or would have been whether or not they would have admitted it or even could have objectively known that. They're the people that were in it for the money. So the company loses 90% of its sales force, and unfortunately, all of its volume is coming from its sales force, so it loses 90% of its volume. Now, what if it was the ratios were very, very different? What if the company had 80% of its volume coming from real, actual, legitimate customers, and it had 20% of its volume coming from its sales force that was ordering the products not because they had to, but because they wanted to? And a company goes through a cycle. Now, the cycles are always going to happen. The problem is, how big are they going to be? And the way that things are structured can change how big those waves are going to be. So let's say a company goes through a cycle and 80% of their volume is coming from customers and not marketers, 20% coming from marketers, and they go through a little bit of a down cycle and they lose half of their sales force. Well, if 20% of their volume is coming from their sales force and they lose half of their sales force, then they've just lost 10% of their volume. Not too big a deal. Even if they lost 90% of their sales force, they're still going to only lose 18% of their volume. And they're still, have this massive customer base that is stuck around because they don't really care if the sales force is having to reinvent themselves, come out with more effective tools, come out with a new message, things like that. So your real stickiness comes from customers. And that is the way out of this whole boom-bust cycle. But most of the network marketing companies out there, in my opinion, again, I haven't done the study, I haven't gone down and gone through every single company and checked out the numbers, but I'm constantly, whenever I'm talking to founders, executives, top earners, whatever, I'm always asking these numbers. And I feel pretty comfortable saying that most network marketing companies out there are marketer-centric models, and that for many of them, the reason that they haven't gone through this boom-bust cycle is because they really haven't ever hit the boom. The boom can be hard to do, to create that really big momentum window or whatever. A lot of them are kind of just gradually growing, and that's cool. There's a level of we don't need to go into all that kind of stuff, but my point being is that true stability comes from real, actual, legitimate customers. So we're going to talk about how you can so easily fix all this kind of stuff, how companies could so easily do this. Oh, and I guess I'll just say one thing. Why do companies do this? Well, it's because it's the easy way out. It's the low-hanging fruit. A lot of people that start network marketing companies are people that come from network marketing, and what they know is how to recruit network marketers. What they know is how to be a marketer-centric model. And so the idea of actually competing in the real marketplace actually is a little scary to them. It sounds really hard to go get a customer. In their eyes, and for a lot of people, and there's plenty of people in network marketing, really sharp people that I respect a lot, that are going to disagree with a lot of what I'm saying. But a lot of people in their eyes, what makes network marketing unique is that it has an opportunity attached to it, and that's what's powerful. That's attracting a customer because we have the opportunity attached to it. I don't see it that way. I don't see that as a customer if the opportunity was attached to it. A customer is somebody who joins without any interest in the opportunity, and I don't want to use the opportunity as a lure to get that customer in, because I think that leads to the inherent instability of the whole deal. But again, sorry, okay, a little plane going overhead. A lot of people, that's what they know, is how to build marketer-centric models, how to go out and recruit other network marketers, how to build volume by selling the dream, selling the network marketing pitch. And they know how to build volume off of that model. And so that's kind of how they build everything around it. I think a lot of them think that that's what is right, that that's the right way to do it. I don't. I think that is the wrong way to do it. But then there's some that maybe kind of know that that's not the right way to do it, that it's not the most stable, but it's the easy way out. It's the low-hanging fruit. It's the easier way to get momentum happening, is to really focus on marketer acquisition instead of customer acquisition. And so you can get things going, you can make things really hot, create a hot story, and it's short-term gain for long-term loss and long-term instability, in my opinion. So okay, I think that's all I've got on this, and then we're going to talk about a few other things, and we're going to talk about how to fix all this, how to actually create how to build into your compensation plan and create a model that doesn't have any of these problems. So we'll get a little pie in the sky and what's my ideal network marketing company and all that kind of stuff here in the coming videos. All right, thanks for watching.